Hello everyone. In this video I'm gonna show you my Elden Ring any % world record speedrun. I'm gonna explain all the glitches and little tricks that I do on the way, so enjoy! In any %, we use a glitch that is called the chainsaw glitch, or pizza swap. I'm gonna explain what that is and how it works later when we get to the first boss. To perform this glitch, we need a weapon that has a stance weapon art. Two classes start with a stance weapon, the Vagabond and the Samurai. I would have picked the Vagabond because it has more vigor and strength. But the run from the player Shakovo that beat my previous record featured a trick with a bow that allows the player to completely skip falling animations if timed correctly, like in this example. I will also explain this in more detail when we get there. So we choose the Samurai instead of the Vagabond, because it starts with a bow and a stance weapon. The starting gift really doesn't matter much, so we just pick the Crimson Ember Medallion for a little extra HP. The run begins, and we have to pick up this item, or else we can't open the door. On the way to the item, I have to unequip the bow, or else I will have a standing up animation after opening the door. When picking up items in Elden Ring, your character goes into an item pickup animation, which prevents you from sprinting for like 1.5 seconds. Blocking or switching weapons cancels this animation, so immediately after picking up the item, we switch the right weapon. In doing so, we cancel the animation and continue sprinting. If you're familiar with Souls game speedruns, you've probably heard of the term quit out. A quit out is basically just the player returning to the main menu. A quit out has multiple uses. The most common ones are skipping door animations, like you just saw me doing it, resetting the position of enemies, and saving yourself from falling. You will see a lot of quit outs in this run. We skip the tutorial boss by jumping down on the left as soon as we spawn him. Since we die anyway, even after killing him, it's faster to just jump down. By the way, another reason why we do these door quitouts is because Elden Ring speedruns are timed using an in-game time plugin. The plugin removes loading times, so that even with a bad PC you can still be competitive. Our first objective is to get access to torrent. For that we need to run to the Gatefront Grace and speak with Melina to get the Spectral Steed Whistle. In uneventful running sections, I'm gonna speed up the video. If you want to watch the unedited version of the run, with actual game sounds, check out the link in the description. When running uphill, we can do these little hops while blocking to cancel the very end of the jumping animation and continue sprinting right away. This barely saves any time, but it's worth it in the long run. When you touch a grace in Elden Ring, you are usually locked in that animation and can't do anything else. But when you touch the grace with your back or side turned towards it, your character turns to face the grace first. During that animation, we can open the teleport menu and teleport to the grace as soon as it appears. This skips a large part of the touching grace animation. For some reason though, doing that will give you a black screen for this cutscene and part of the dialogue. When the dialogue with Melina is finished, I use the stand-up animation to quickly bind the Spectral Steed Whistle to my right pouch slot and hop onto torrent as soon as I can. By the way, I should mention that this run is played on the version 1.02.3, which is the version released 1 or 2 weeks after the release of the game. Many, if not all of the glitches you see in this video, are already patched out in the latest version of the game. When I started speedrunning, I actually had so much trouble with this jump. So much so that I was afraid to even do it and went around the bridge sometimes. Now that I've played the game for a few hours, it's hard to even fail it at all anymore. Coming up is the most time-saving glitch in Elden Ring, the wrong warp. I don't fully understand how it works, but I'm gonna try my best to explain it. There's also a link to the Speed Souls wiki page about wrong warps in the description, in case you want to read more about it. The wrong warp allows us to warp to the default location of an area by using the Memory of Grace, then using the map teleport at the correct time. It makes more sense with this example. So I use the Memory of Grace, then I teleport to the Stormhill Shack. And by the way, the timing of the teleport is only about 15 frames or so it's easy to mess it up. Pressing it too early or too late will result in a failed wrong warp. If done correctly, we will be in the default location of the Stormhill Shack Grace, which for some reason is below the ground. If I do a quit out now, the game will warp me to the default location of the last area I had stable ground in, which is Leonia South, and the default location of this area is right here. This wrong warp brings us closer to the Academy teleporter and is definitely faster than running. So yeah, wrong warps are pretty confusing. But well, as long as I know how to perform them, I'm fine, I guess. When entering the Academy portal, I use the time of the animation to set the Stormhill Grace as favorite. That makes it easier to select it for the last 2 remaining wrong warps of the run. Our next objective is to get into the Academy. Before grabbing the Academy key, I take this Grace first, so that I can teleport back to it as soon as I have the key. When I approach the key, the dragon awakes, putting me in combat. When I'm in combat, I cannot teleport. So right before the key, I do a quit out, because after logging back in, I have a few seconds to teleport before the dragon puts me in combat again. So I grab the key and instantly teleport back to the Academy. So now we are at the Academy entrance, but instead of taking the normal way in, we take a slightly different path, and that is with the Pegasus Glitch. The game originally intended for torrent to be able to stand in the world, but they changed their minds midway through. However, we can still access this state by doing a fast quit out after dismounting. If timed correctly, torrent will always stand next to us when logging back in. But because this is an advanced setup, we won't even see torrent standing next to us, and he will fall to his death instantly. But don't worry, that is a good thing, because that is the whole idea behind it. We needed to find a place where if we log back in, there's no room next to us for torrent to stand in, and instead make torrent fall down into a kill plane. In Souls games, everything that dies to a kill plane has its gravity disabled. So if we resummon torrent now, he will be alive, but with gravity disabled, allowing us to walk in the air. I guess at this point we should apologize to Melina, because she told us this.
Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect.
The Pegasus Glitch allows us to enter the Academy from the side. By triggering the loading of the area at the correct time, we managed to just barely catch this elevator cycle. The plan is to get killed by the grab of this Abductor Virgin, as this is an intended game event that transports us into the Volcano Manor, which actually happened to me by accident in my first playthrough. When you get abducted and teleported into the Volcano Manor, your character is in a trapped state, meaning you cannot teleport. We don't need any items in this area. The only reason we come here is to grab the Serpent Hunter from Rykards Arena for the chainsaw glitch. For that, we need to go to the closest Grace, so that we can perform a wrong warp to the default location of the Volcano Manor, which is the entrance of this area. I think this is a good time to explain the chainsaw glitch. So, when you use the weapon stance, you usually cannot switch weapons. But the same principle as in the Touching Grace turnaround animation applies here as well. Here's an example. We position ourselves so that the enemy is behind us, then press L2 and lock on. By doing that, the character turns around. Now comes the difficult part. In the time frame of the character turning around, we have to open the menu, open equipment, click on the weapon, then press left and equip the Serpent Hunter. Now we have to close the menu and instantly press L2 again and hold it for the chainsaw. What happened here is, we switched weapons while a weapon stance was active. The game therefore thinks that we still have a stance active, but we now have a weapon equipped that doesn't have a stance. So now the game checks the list of weapons with stances and gives us the stance of the first weapon on that list, which is the Giza's Wheel. So now we are using the Giza's Wheel weapon skill for the weapon we switch to, and that is the Serpent Hunter. In Rykard's arena, the Serpent Hunter has huge range, and for some reason that range also works outside of his arena, with the chainsaw. So in short, we now have a weapon that hits in rapid succession and also has very good range, and it looks like this. Alright, let's return to the run. Here I do the wrong warp that I mentioned earlier, that brings us to the starting area of the Volcano Manor. Earlier I also mentioned that you can see torrent standing around when doing the Pegasus setup. In this example you can actually see it this time. Now we climb this rock to gain enough height so that we can walk over the Volcano Manor entrance with the Pegasus Glitch and walk right into the portal that brings us to Rykard's arena. Since we only came here to grab the Serpent Hunter, we teleport out to the academy as soon as we have the weapon in our inventory. Our next objective is to walk to the 4 Belfries. But of course we're not taking the long path you see right now. Instead we're doing the same Pegasus glitch as we did earlier and run straight there. The reason we go here is because we can enter a portal to the Farum Azula preview area. Since the default area of Farum Azula is the very beginning of it, we can do a wrong warp, and with that, basically skip like 80% of the game. So now we are in Farum Azula, and things are finally getting interesting, since everything here can one-shot us. Luckily, we have the good old quit-outs to help us on the way. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned the bow jump. We utilize this trick quite often in this area. Let me explain how it works. You put the bow into the right hand, and make sure you don't have any arrows equipped. Now when you jump down, press R1 at the right timing, and when timed correctly, you will skip the falling animation. This trick is still quite new for me though, so I fail it a few times, like in this example. Since the chainsaw glitch with the Serpent Hunter is so powerful right now, we also don't need a single item from this area. That means that the any percent run right now can basically be summed up to grab the Serpent Hunter and chainsaw massacre the 3 bosses. So now finally, after 13 minutes of in-game time, which is about 18 minutes of real time, we arrived at the first boss, the Godskin Duo. I'm gonna break down the fight in 4 steps. Step 1. Kill the Godskin Noble while hiding behind the pillar. Step 2. Break the Godskin Apostle's posture and bring him to low HP. Step 3. Wait a little before killing the Apostle, because if I kill the Apostle too quickly, it takes too long for the Noble to spawn again. And step 4. Kill the Godskin Noble. So let's see if I manage to put the theory into practice. I'm gonna let this one play out with the audio from the stream. Bro! Nein, wieso lasse ich ihn nicht zu Ende summonen? Nein, ich bin so voll Idiot! So yeah, I did manage to put the theory into practice. At least somewhat. It wasn't the fastest kill, but it was okay. Now we make our way to Maliketh, On the way there, we do a few bow jumps and one interesting skip. Here I actually failed the turnaround animation skip on the Grace and lost like 2 seconds. When we level up, we put all our runes into strength, or else we can't kill the last 2 bosses. This is the only time we level in the entire run, by the way. This is one of the most important skips of the run, as it saves like 6 seconds compared to the old skip. It uses another bow jump, where I use these hanging leaves as a visual cue for the R1 timing. The jump into the window is actually way more precise than it looks because of invisible hitboxes everywhere. The reason we went all the way up here is because at the top we can jump down to this ledge, where I lose another 2 to 3 seconds because I failed the jump and had to stop myself from falling with a quit out. But when I log back in, I carefully walk along these edges, followed by a jump at the end. And this little parkour maneuver saves like 25 seconds compared to running to Maliketh the normal way. On the way up to Maliketh, there's this long uphill section, where we can use the little hops that I mentioned at the beginning, saving quite a bit of time. The next fight has 2 phases. Phase 1 is Beast Clergyman, which is also the biggest RNG part of the run, because he has different openings. Around 70% of the time, I would say, he rushes at you from the very beginning, which is exactly what we want. But sometimes he just stands around and throws rocks at you from a distance, sometimes multiple times in a row, which basically results in an instant reset. The strategy is to stand close to this pillar and start the chainsaw. Now take a second to pray that Clergy will rush at you instead of throwing rocks. As soon as you see him rushing towards you, walk backwards to the left, so that his stab won't hit you. Keep walking backwards and get into phase 2. In phase 2, we have to switch back to the Uchigatana, because we have to reactivate the chainsaw. Walk a few steps back and wait for Maliketh to finish his first swing. If we stand far enough away, he will always jump up and lunge down with his sword. We can use this knowledge to run past him and start the chainsaw from here and kill him. I'm gonna show you this fight once more in real time and with audio. You might be wondering why I rapidly tap forward when the chainsaw is active. It's simply because the chainsaw ticks more often when doing that. Alright, so all that's left to do is 2 more skips and 1 more boss to kill. On the way there, we of course make use of the little hops again whenever we can. Here I could use the bow jump again, but I haven't practiced this one at all. So I do it with a quit out instead. I think a quit out is slower than doing it with a perfectly timed bow jump, so I should definitely work on that. We skip the Gideon fight entirely by doing a set of jumps using the compass bar at the top as an indicator. I would recommend using mouse and keyboard for this, as these jumps have to be quite precise. Keep walking forward and get all the way into this corner while positioning your marker on east. Jump and flick to the left until you reach this point in the compass. Jump and flick left again until you almost reach north with your marker. Now put the marker on north-northeast and jump twice while walking forwards. I learned this skip with the help of a tutorial made by QTT6, so this is a good time for a shoutout. Well, we are down to 1 more skip and 1 more boss. And with this next skip, we completely skip Hoarah Loux, and it is done by jumping up on the railing next to the fog gate. If we do a quit out here and log back in, for some reason the fog gate is not rendered instantly, giving us the opportunity to enter the boss arena without actually initiating the boss fight. So, here we are, down to just 1 more fight. And as boring as it might sound, both phases of the last fight don't really have anything to look out for. It literally just comes down to the question, do you screw up the chainsaw or not? And if not, the boss is dead. I'll take the chance to say a few things while this rather uneventful fight plays in the background. In order to make this video, I had to learn video editing completely from scratch, and I put a ton of work into it. So I would really appreciate it if you could drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and maybe even subscribe, who knows. And thank you so much for watching. Come on, baby, let's go! Stirb, Mr. Beast! Fuck you, Mr. Beast! He dead. Wait, ist das echt Weltrekord jetzt? Habe ich das gerade echt einfach mal so gemacht? Nee, oder? Startknopf, Startknopf! Einfach mal gemacht. Erster Run. Ah, jetzt kann ich auch aufgehen. Tschüss. What the fuck?